Today on the show, we're diving into the world of economic indicators. These are the numbers that tell us how the economy is doing, things like GDP, unemployment rates, and consumer confidence. But what do these indicators really mean? How are they calculated? And how should we interpret them? We'll break it all down for you with the help of some experts to make sense of the numbers that shape our world. What's up, Broncos country? Yo fam, take a deep breath because a bomb just dropped in Denver. Sean Payton doesn't give a damn about comfort zones and just made moves nobody expected at this moment. While everyone was still celebrating that important victory over the Jets in London, our coach already had his eyes on the market, moving pieces on the chessboard and bringing in people he knows very well. And when I say very well, it's because this guy who just arrived played with Payton, was coached by Payton, and has a resume that will make you understand why the signing is huge for the Broncos. So stick with me until the end, because this move could change everything in our season. Look, Broncos country, let's get straight to the point because the team just announced two very strategic signings that show exactly what Sean Payton is thinking for the rest of this season. And these additions come at a super important moment, right after that hard-fought victory against the Jets in Week 6. And right before we host the Giants at home in the next round. The first signing is a guy who has New Orleans DNA running through his veins and knows Payton's system like few others. We're talking about JT Gray, folks, a safety who was an undrafted free agent back in 2018, coming from Mississippi State straight to the Saints. And look, this guy isn't just any special teams player. Gray was selected to the first-team All-Pro, which is basically being recognized as one of the best in the entire league in that role. But let me put this in context for you to understand the magnitude of this signing. JT Gray was second-team All-Pro in 2019 and again in 2024. In other words, the guy has consistency, has proven quality over the years, and knows exactly what he needs to do on the field to make a difference. And even more importantly, he played under Sean Payton and our current special teams coordinator, Darren Rizzi, back in New Orleans. That chemistry, that connection already exists. There won't be an adjustment period. There won't be that phase of learning the system. The guy arrives ready to contribute immediately. Gray was on the Baltimore Ravens practice squad, but the Broncos went there and snatched him from the competing conference. And what a smart move, huh, fam? You grab a player who was waiting for an opportunity on another team, who knows your system by heart, who has already proven his value in the league, and who comes precisely to fill a need we have on special teams. And when we talk about special teams, folks, a lot of people underestimate it. But how many games haven't we seen decided by a well-executed punt return, by perfect coverage that pins the opponent deep, by that crucial tackle that prevents the big play? JT Gray is a specialist in this. The guy is 29 years old, is at the peak of his athletic maturity, has plenty of experience, and knows every detail of what Rizzi likes to do on special teams. In the 2024 season, Gray participated in all 17 regular season games for the Saints. This shows durability, shows coaching staff confidence, and shows that the guy is professional to the core. But here's the interesting detail. He hasn't taken the field yet in this 2025 season. In other words, the guy is fresh, has pent-up energy, and is hungry to show what he's got. It was precisely in the last campaign with Payton in New Orleans that Gray earned Pro Bowl and first-team All-Pro honors for his work on special teams. That was recent. That was with our coach in command. So Sean Payton knows exactly what this player can deliver, knows his qualities, his strengths, and how to get the maximum out of him on the field. It's practically a family reunion just this time wearing the orange and blue colors. Now here comes the second signing of this roster overhaul. The Broncos added Carson Barnhart to the practice squad. And look, this name might not be as well known as Gray's, but the move makes total sense when you analyze our situation on the offensive line. Barnhart is an offensive lineman who was without a team after being released by the Los Angeles Chargers back in August. Carson Barnhart was an undrafted free agent coming from Michigan, a team that was national champion of the college football playoff. The guy has a college championship ring played at the highest level of college football, and spent last season on the Chargers practice squad. And here's a curious detail. He was a teammate of our running back in Los Angeles during the 2024 season. The Broncos held a workout with a group of 4 offensive linemen before deciding on signing Barnhart. This shows that the coaching staff is being careful, is evaluating options well, and specifically chose this athlete among the available alternatives. And why are we looking for another guy for the offensive line? Well, fam, the situation got complicated after Ben Powers suffered that biceps injury that put him on injured reserve. Matt Pert took over the position, but let's be honest here. He had difficulties. The performance wasn't ideal, and that was evident in recent games. So the Broncos are being proactive, are making moves to ensure we have enough depth on the offensive line in case we need to make more adjustments. Barnhart probably won't take over the starting position immediately, but he provides that insurance of having another body available if someone needs to move up the depth chart. Barnhart's versatility is a valuable asset. He can play multiple positions on the interior line, which is exactly the type of flexibility you want to have on your practice squad. If someone gets hurt in the game, if we need an emergency replacement, if we want to test different combinations on the offensive line during the week of practices, Barnhart offers these options. Now, fam, these 2 signings need to be seen within a larger context. Sean Payton made statements just 2 days ago suggesting that the team could explore trade options before the deadline that happens on November 4th. This isn't talk from a coach satisfied with the current roster. This is Payton being Payton, always seeking to improve, always looking for that piece that can make a difference, always alert to opportunities in the market. And check this out, these moves with Gray and Barnhart might be just the beginning. Analysts covering the team are indicating that corresponding moves are coming both for the active roster and for the practice squad. The team is at the limit of 53 players on the main roster and 17 on the practice squad. So to accommodate these additions, other changes need to happen, and this is where it gets interesting for us. Broncos country, we're seeing active roster management. It's not that passive model of sitting and waiting for things to improve on their own. Payton is working, is adjusting, is optimizing each week based on what he sees on the field and what he identifies as needs. This is high-level coaching. This is professional franchise management that wants to compete now. The signing of J.T. Gray specifically shows something very important about Payton's philosophy. He values special teams. Many coaches treat this phase of the game as something secondary, put in players who can't get into the defense or offense and hope it works out. Not Payton. He goes after specialists, guys who make it an art form, who study every detail of punt coverage, kickoff return, field goal block, and Gray is exactly that, an elite specialist. Think about it, fam. How many times have we seen games turned around by a special teams mistake? A fumble on punt return, poor coverage that allows a long return, a blocked field goal at a crucial moment. These details decide championships. And now we have a first-team All-Pro taking care of these details for us. This might not show up in traditional statistics, but it will show up in the win column. And there's another aspect of this signing that can't go unnoticed. The message this sends to the locker room. When you bring in an All-Pro, even if it's for special teams, you're telling all the other players that we want the best at every position, in every role, in every detail of the game. This raises the internal standard of excellence. This makes every athlete work harder because they know the competition is real. J.T. Gray arrives at a perfect time, too. We're coming off an important but draining victory in London. We have a challenging stretch of games ahead, and we need all the help we can get to maintain positive momentum. Every advantage counts, every detail matters, and every phase of the game needs to function at the highest level. Gray gives us that on special teams, and we can't forget that Barnhart has only 1 year of professional experience. He's young, has room for growth, and is in an environment that will challenge him every day. Training against our defensive line, learning from our coaching staff, absorbing knowledge from more experienced linemen on the roster. All of this accelerates his development. Who knows, maybe in a year he won't be competing for a starting spot? The reality is that Sean Payton is building something here in Denver, fam. And I'm not just talking about winning games this season, although that's obviously important. I'm talking about establishing a culture of excellence, attention to detail, never being satisfied, always seeking the next improvement. These seemingly small signings are part of a bigger project. Look at the timing of these moves. Right after a victory, when many teams would be relaxing and enjoying the moment, Peyton is working the market. Right before a trade deadline, when opportunities start appearing and teams define their strategies for the second half of the season, the Broncos are positioning themselves. This is proactive management. This is strategic planning. And when Peyton talks about exploring the trade market before the November 4th deadline, he's being transparent about his intentions. It's not that vague talk of we'll see what comes up. It's a clear warning, we're in the market, we're evaluating options, and we'll act if we find something that makes sense. Gray and Barnhart might just be the appetizer before the main course. Imagine, Broncos country, if these two signings are followed by a significant trade before the deadline. If we bring in a veteran pass rusher, a receiver who can create separation, a defensive back who adds depth to the secondary, the possibilities are enormous, and Peyton has already shown he's not afraid to pull the trigger when he sees an opportunity. But even without additional trades, what we saw this week is already worthwhile. JT Gray alone can transform our special teams. And I'm not exaggerating, fam. The difference between having a regular guy and having an all-pro at that position is gigantic. It's the difference between giving up that 50-yard return that changes the momentum of the game and making the tackle at the 20, keeping the opponent away from field goal range. And there's the leadership issue, too. Gray was a Pro Bowler, was all-pro, played in the New Orleans environment when the team was competitive. He brings experience, brings knowledge of a winning locker room, brings that mentality of someone who knows what it takes to go far in the postseason. Even being a special teams player, this type of experience is contagious to the rest of the roster. Think about the younger players on our roster. They're going to train with Gray, they're going to see how he prepares, they're going to observe the level of dedication that an all-pro puts into daily work. This is education without words, it's leadership by example. And on a team that has several promising young players, having veterans with this resume is essential to accelerate collective development. Now let's talk a little bit about what's coming up, because these signings also need to be seen in the context of our upcoming schedule. We face the Giants next week here at home, and they're coming off a complicated season but still have individual talent that can cause problems. And it's exactly for these pressure moments that you want to have the most complete roster possible. One thing that Denver Broncos fans need to understand is that championships aren't won just with star quarterbacks and spectacular wide receivers. They're won with complete teams. They're won with plays that nobody notices, with tackles on special teams, with offensive line blocks that create that extra second for the quarterback to make a decision. J.T. Gray and Carson Barnhart represent exactly that. The less glamorous but fundamental pieces of a team that wants to go far. And look how wonderful it is to see Sean Payton working. The guy doesn't take vacations, doesn't relax, doesn't get comfortable. He's always looking for ways to improve the team. One in London? Great, but what can we do better? What needs to be adjusted? Who's available on the market that can help us? This mentality of continuous improvement is what separates good coaches from great coaches. And his connection with J.T. Gray specifically shows how relationships in football matter. Peyton coached this guy, saw him develop, knows his character, knows exactly what he'll deliver. It's not a shot in the dark, it's not a gamble. It's a certainty based on prior experience. This type of signing has a much higher success rate because you eliminate uncertainty about cultural fit and system understanding. Darren Ritzie, our special teams coordinator, must also be extremely excited about this addition. He worked with Gray in New Orleans. They built those elite special teams units together. They know how to communicate and what to expect from each other. It's almost like reuniting a band that was already successful before. The chemistry already exists, just needs to play the music again. Fam, this leads me to a broader reflection about where we are as a franchise at this moment. A few years ago, the Broncos were almost a joke in the league. Constant coaching changes, bad drafts, disastrous free agencies, lack of identity. Now we have a clear plan. A respected coach knows exactly what he's doing, and management that supports his decisions. These signings of Gray and Barnhart won't make national headlines, won't dominate debates on television, won't make magazine covers. But you know what they show? They show an organization that's paying attention, that identifies needs quickly, that acts decisively, that's not afraid to shake up the roster even after victories. This is a sign of organizational maturity, and keep an eye out also in the coming weeks until the trade deadline. If Payton is openly talking about exploring the market, it's because he's really exploring. It's not empty talk, it's not posturing for the press. He's making calls, he's evaluating prices, he's identifying targets. It might not result in anything, but it could also result in a significant addition that changes our trajectory for the season. What I want you to understand, Broncos country, is that we're in good hands. We have a coach who knows what he's doing, who has a clear plan, who's not afraid to make tough decisions, and who's committed to doing whatever it takes to win. J.T. Gray and Carson Barnhart are just recent examples of this. They're smart, strategic, and well-thought-out moves that might seem small today, but could make all the difference a few weeks from now. If you breathe Broncos country and want to stay on top of all the moves, analysis, and behind the scenes of our team, subscribe to the channel now. Hit that bell to not miss any news, because the season is just getting started, and there's a lot of good stuff coming. Look, in my view, this J.T. Gray signing is even more important than a lot of people are realizing. Special teams decide games, period. And having a first-team All-Pro at this position who already knows our system, that's pure gold, fam. Payton isn't playing around. He wants to build a complete team with no weak points. And as for Barnhart, it might seem like just another guy on the practice squad, but offensive line depth has saved many seasons over the years. I'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it. Tell me, Broncos country, what do you think of these moves? So there you have it, Denver Broncos fam. These signings show that Payton is working behind the scenes to make this team even stronger. Do you think there's another bomb coming before the trade deadline? Could there be a big name arriving? And don't forget to drop that like, share with your fellow fans, and activate notifications so you don't miss a single play. Until the next video, Broncos country.